On Tuesday, we celebrate the solemnity of the Immaculate Conception. And this year in the Archdiocese, the Archbishop and other leadership of the Archdiocese decided that this is a great year to make it a year that is dedicated to St. Joseph. And so it's going to be known as the Year of St. Joseph. St. Joseph is a great saint to go to, especially in times of need. You often see on the bottom of statues set at Joseph, which means go to Joseph. Go to Joseph in your need. And I believe that St. Joseph lived a great vocation in three different ways. First and foremost, being a son of God, then a husband, and then a father. And he's a great role model for each and every one of us to live our life, to emulate Joseph as much as we possibly can. You know, so often we say that God is our creator. And this is true, but he is not only that. You see, I too can create. I can create a picture. I can possibly create a car, probably not a very good one. But that is not the same as someone creating a human being, a living thing. You see, we are made in the image and likeness of God, of our Heavenly Father. He is more than our creator. He is our Father, which means that we are God's children. So what does it mean to be a child of God? When we take a look at St. Joseph, what we hear of him, not much by the way, we hear that he is a just man. And we know that he is someone who had a relationship with God. There's no way that God would choose some schmuck off the street to be the husband or father to Mary and Joseph. And we can see by St. Joseph's fiat, his yes to God's will, that he had this relationship with the Lord. As you know, it takes time to build up a relationship with someone. And in the relationship, we know that there are ebbs and flows to the relationship. Take a look at your own relationship with your own father. Now, I know that not everyone has had a great relationship with your father. Some people have never even had a relationship with their father because of death or divorce, or the father not wanting to have a relationship, or the child themselves not wanting to have a relationship with the father. So often we hear this, it's called the father's wound, a father wound in our life. And that can infect our relationship with God the Father as well, because we view God the same way that we view our own Father, who can be the greatest Father the world has ever seen other than God himself, and will fall so short of God himself. And so we have to look at this relationship with God the Father as a Father who truly cares for us and will do anything for us. And we know this. He sent his only Son into this world for us. We are called to be his children. What is the hardest part of being a son or a daughter? I hear this all the time from children, especially teenagers, that the reason they do not like their parents because their parents want them to do something that they do not want to do. It's hard to do something that you don't want to do. This is why children all the time say, what? They don't want to clean their room. They don't want to share. They don't want to be nice to their siblings. The hardest part of being a son or daughter is following the will of your parents. And the same is true with our relationship with God. We can decipher what his will is for us. We can figure out what he wants of us. But that's not the hard part. The hard part is actually doing it. Just like a child, we may ask the question in our mind, is this really worth it? What do I get out of it? And as a child, we do not always see the big picture. What we do get when we follow our Father's will in heaven is what's best for us. He'll take care of everything. All we have to do is submit and be the child that he wants us to be. This is hard. And it's hard as grown-ups as well because we want to be the ones in charge. We don't want to be told what to do. We want to tell other people to do something. We want to be, as a little child, the king of the mountain. I imagine that Joseph, though, truly had a childlike relationship with God at the age of like 2 or 3 type of relationship. That he knew that doing God's will and being open to God's providence was the only way to live. That's what he did. Jean-Pierre Caussade has written a book called Abandonment to the Divine Providence. And what it repeats over and over again is that God has put certain situations in front of us for a reason. And what we are called to do is to be open to them and to respond to them. So often we are like disobeying children, or children that are always worried about what is going to come next. You can make a child their favorite meal. Let's say that favorite meal is macaroni and cheese. But for some of them, they can never enjoy it because they are so worried about what is for dessert. When this happens, the child is missing out on what they really want. They can't stay present. We too do this with God. We are so worried about what is going to happen next in our life. Am I going to get a promotion? Where should I move to? What about this pandemic? That we miss out on what is right in front of us. And it is God who has put these things in front of us. But we so often fail to see this. When this happens, we are not being a good son or a daughter of our Heavenly Father. Rather, what we are doing is not putting any trust in Him. And what it shows is that we really do not believe that God has a plan for us. Joseph lived in the moment. He gave himself completely over to God's will. And look what happened because of it. When Joseph went to the inns to see if there was any room for him and Mary as Jesus was about to be born and got turned away, he could have tried to take matters into his own hands. He could have said, "Don't you see that my wife is pregnant? There must be room in the inn." But he didn't. He was content, and he knew that God had a plan. And so he heard. He heard that there was an empty stable, or in the most likely case, an empty cave where they could spend the night. And so Joseph did not get flustered like children. Don't get flustered when they have that complete trust in the Lord. But so often we get flustered at God. Joseph, in this moment of need, did not get flustered. He just saw that this was part of God's plan, and he did it. And what did this lead to? Think about it. Because Joseph and Mary went to the cave, no one knew that Jesus was born. And so when Herod sent out the soldiers to look for Jesus, they didn't know where he was. Imagine if Joseph would have tried to take things into his own hands. and not put his trust in God, not had that child faith, more than likely, Herod would have found Jesus. In doing so, would have destroyed him. Joseph simply had that childlike faith. Even in the midst of being turned away, he knew that God was present. That's what we need to do as well. Have that childlike faith, that complete abandonment to God, a Father who is full of love, a Father who will do anything for us, and all he desires of us is to put our trust in him, just like St. Joseph.